I love Roman games since from Rise, Son of Rome back in the day, and of course Rome Total War. It has always been one of my favorite eras, but these days is so underrepresented in the media. Is it because it doesn't make any money? Yeah, probably. But I think there needs to be more. A game like 0 AD is a fantastic free-to-play version of basically what Age of Empires was, but set within, well, ancient times. 0 AD does offer a lot for players and has been out in demo forms for quite some time and is open source, which means that it's always going to be available for anybody to check out and play. Something I would recommend anybody that likes a sort of Age of Empires style titles to check out. But you see, there are more games in this Roman genre that you might think. Now, I want to talk about We Are Legion Rome, but not for the reasons that you might think. Mostly because, well, as we'll get onto, I'm a little bit suspicious. We Are Legion Rome hands you the shiny and probably bloody sandals of a Roman legionary, with all the glory and horror that it entails. This isn't any sort of happy-go-lucky romp through Rome, and kind of is trying to inspire that legacy of Rise, Son of Rome. Not exactly in the most successful way. It's a front row seat to hand-to-hand combat, strategy, and truly a personal take on empire building. There's no top-down management like something of 0 AD, but you're in the thick of the Roman, I guess, trenches, so to speak. Sword in hand, marching to influence neighboring regions, fend off barbarian hordes, and, well, spread civilization. The combat is supposedly not just going to be mindless button mashing, however, I'm not sure the developers actually know what they're doing in terms of that. It's supposed to be tactical, needing split-second times to block, swing, and maybe survive the end of each battle. These will all be orchestral chaos. Play your cards right, you can level up with new abilities, going from green recruits to battle-hardened terrors, riding up the rank. It's supposed to be a gritty RPG that goes beyond fighting. Having this legionary that you move throughout as just one person. You aren't going to be a commander, you are just going to be a member of the Roman army. Choices affect outcomes, making sure that every choice feels weighty, like picking sides between gladiators and grudges. Now, the game is slated for launch in March of 2025, and hopefully is going to do enough to keep things fresh. I mentioned I have some doubts about this game, and I have some very, well, legitimate doubts. You might have gained this by how vague I'm actually speaking about We Are Legion Rome. I don't think the game actually exists in any form so far. If we go on the We Are Legion Rome, well, YouTube, we can see that they are making something. There is a lot of modeling, there was a lot of map making, but it just seems all very vague. And then we see who's making it. You see, if we go forward through any one of the SA games, we know that Playway Games is always going to be the publisher. They've kind of taken their name off a lot of the Steam pages because they've got this reputation for doing exactly what We Are Legion Rome has done, which is release a really badly, terribly scripted, terribly animated trailer to try and drum up some hype. Then they just say wishlist it. They don't really give a release date, and they try and get as many wishlists on Steam as possible. If they hit a certain threshold, then, you know, Playway Games greenlights it, gives the developer some money, and then they release it as a title. But so far, it seems that they just haven't got the wishlist in order to actually make it, because this was slated for release in 2022. In fact, if we see some comments on We Are Legion Rome's YouTube channel and some of the trailers, they did say, oh, it's coming in 2022, and then 2023, then 2024, and 2025. And I think it's going to be indefinitely pushed back until it gets enough wish lists. These are things that you have to be very, very careful for. Playway are so well known for it, and you'll notice this because every single one of their games look exactly the same. It's some first-person simulator. We can see Bandit Simulator, you can see Car Wash Simulator, all these, they look awful. They play exactly the same. And the thing is, they release these teasers and only actually make the game once they get enough wish lists. So as much as I wanted to add this game on because I know a lot of people have been talking about it, I do want to say be a bit more careful because, yeah, stuff like this is not quite what it seems. But let's talk about some titles that do actually exist, and that is Anno 117 Pax Romana, where you get to rule like Caesar. Yes, this is Ubisoft's newest addition to the city builder genre, throwing you smack into the Roman Empire at its very peak, like a governor with a grudge against empty lands. Set during the golden age of, well, 117 AD, makes you the overseer of a bustling Roman province where everybody has opinions, but none of them are quiet. Want a grand amphitheater? Sure, but your people also want food. The game isn't just about conquering, it's about managing chaos and keeping everyone happy. I just really hope that they can keep in conjunction with the way that Anno games have been in the past. Gorgeous absolute minute attention to details, seeing these thriving and growing cities, and especially set in Rome. I cannot wait to see how that pans out. The game is supposed to be this balancing act, where you're not just here to do buildings, but also keep the peace and growing the culture. And of course, the name Pax Romana, meaning itself Roman peace. So, well, that kind of says everything you need to know about the title itself. Seasons will impact food resources, and of course, with your limited patience, you need to make sure that everybody is not getting towards the point they want to kill you. As governor, it's on you to balance all of that. It will be a sandbox of historic proportions, set for release on PC and next-gen consoles in 2025. So far, we haven't really got too much in terms of gameplay, but we have had some trailers. The Ubisoft page is still being very, very vague, but they do have a fan kit if you want that. Yeah, you can download the Pax Romana fan kit, but it doesn't really include all that much. It gives you a few maps. Okay, great. Well, we can actually have a nicer look at what that's going to look like. They're all very basic. It is basically the overall map. However, what we can gain from this is that it's going to be set in Italy, but also very much a historically accurate map on what the Roman Empire would have thought the world looked at the time. Pax Orgusta. Once again, we kind of overlay a lot with these names. Have you ever dreamed of being meticulous, over-caffeinated Roman city planner? Well, once again, we're going to be in the city building genre. Developed by Roger Gassman, this game is a tribute to Roman efficiency, or at least obsessive attention to detail, depending on how you look at it. But you're not just putting down random buildings, you're creating a fully functioning city with aqueducts, buildings, temples to manage, and of course citizens that have all the needs that you'd expect from people who think they live in the world's greatest empire. This is a game that is really supposed to be focusing on building this nice, lush city. Once again, focusing on the peace of Rome rather than its genocidal mania that we tend to see quite a lot. Diving into some of the nuances of Roman engineering. So, if you've ever wanted to make sure a water system works in all 4 seasons, this is your jam. You do need to think about where each road leads, who has access to produce, and whether your aqueducts are pumping enough water to each neighborhood. Yeah, that is... I feel like this is going to be one of those games where you're going to be spending a lot of time doing the equivalent of wiring in ancient Rome, making sure that everybody has good sewage systems, because, well, it's going to be going back and forward. There'll be things like environmental hazards, fires and floods that will happen randomly. So trying to keep that fragile urban balance in check is going to be something constantly on your mind. Think of it like city skylines, where you have to constantly be working out how to stop traffic jams because everybody keeps dying of some sort of disease and the ambulances can't get there. It's like that, but in Rome. The city's social hierarchy will add layers of complexity, finding yourself torn between building bathhouses for the rich or bakeries for the poor. And, you know, don't get me wrong, both sides will still complain, but much like the UK in this day and age, if you ignore everybody, you can only win. Going to be dropping on PC supposedly in 2024, but without an official release date, I think that's probably going to be pushed back. Because, well, we're getting really to the end of 2024. And if we don't have an exact release date, well... That's... So, supposedly it was coming out on the 25th of October as kind of like a temporary release. I think we're going to go pretty far back here. It looks kind of nice, but I do fear with a game like this is that especially coming out in the same year and at a similar time and a very much a similar genre and setting as Anno, I don't know how it's going to be a success. It is made by, as far as I'm aware, one man, or at least a very, very small company, which is, you know, incredibly admirable, but it is set exactly within the same time era as Anno, between 20 BC, I think, and 180 AD. I don't know how it's going to compete. I really, really hope that it's got enough selling points in order to do so, but I guess time's going to tell. Graphically, the style looks kind of old, kind of similar to something like your 0 ADs, but that's kind of to be expected by a much smaller team. It's really going to be a David versus Goliath situation up in here. But let's talk a little bit about Nova Roma. We are really going hard with these Latin translations at the moment. We've had Peace in Rome, and now we've got New Rome. Yes, they all seem to be city builders. This one looks a lot like Foundation, though. It's got a very similar art style. So if you're looking something a little bit more arcadey and a bit more cartoony, this is what you're going for. I love the little water art style where you can see the edge of the river and the little white outlines. It looks very nice, and especially the screenshots of the city of Rome, so enclosed together, those bustling streets and a lot of buildings everywhere. Yeah, it looks kind of cool. Published by Hooded Horse, which, as we know, recently took up the mantle of publishing, Manor Lords, Kingdoms and Castles, and now Nova Roma. These guys kind of know what they're doing. They have been within this city building genre for quite some time now. So what is this game hoping to do a little bit different to the others? Well, here you're not just building a city, but you're defending it against the rest of the world. It is more of a real-time strategy than a city builder than the others. Don't get me wrong, you have to build and manage everything within the game, but it's kind of a Roman survival mode. Every choice has consequences, and instead of expanding, you're just hoping to not get overrun. You start with basic resources and, well, hopefully some big dreams, and from there, it's a test of strategic savvy. Granaries, barracks, temples, and fortifications all need to be in place with an eye towards defending Rome. The game wants you to think about why you're building, not just where. You're going to be facing constant invasions from enemies, and let's be real, those barbarians aren't knocking on your gates for a friendly chat. What makes the game really stand out is the favor system, though. Appeasing the gods is not just a good luck charm, it's a strategy. A temple to Jupiter might mean sunny days for crops, whilst ignoring Mars could lead to an accidental influx of angry invaders. Each god has its perks, knowing which to honor can become vital. It's kind of a little bit like ancient insurance, only with gods who might actually burn your city down if you're not nice enough. Although, I'm with AXA and Tesco Bank, and I suspect they might do the same if I forget my insurance payments. Beyond divine favoritism, though, Nova Roma gives you political dilemmas galore, forging alliances, trading with other cities, and making enough friends to keep your enemies at bay. The game is planned for release in 2025, and I just hope that it can offer something really, really different, as it looks like we're going to be seeing. You can see a lot of little invasions and, of course, pop-up events that you've got to deal with, dams breaking, floods. Think of it a little bit like diplomacy is not an option, but I guess more focused on the city building aspect than that. I mean, diplomacy is not an option. It's completely being attacked by things. But they just look like little jelly beans. That's what I'm trying to say. You're being invaded by jelly beans. Finally, we have Pompei The Legacy. What's left after a city gets buried in volcanic ash? Well, this game is hoping to explore that question by letting you rebuild the famous city from scratch. The game isn't just about city building, though. It's about preservation, adaptation, and maybe a little divine intervention to keep that volcano quiet. The game is spanning 200 years, giving players time to restore, revamp, and generally make, less death occur. Your first task is to figure out what's worth preserving. Each restored building earns you reputation points, attracts tourists, and then cash flow, but maintaining them isn't cheap. Balancing old and new is a core challenge here, where one wrong move could drain your resources faster than a Pompeii hot spring. The game also incorporates a time progression system, meaning you're working through historical trends. You'll witness Rome's changing architecture, its shift to Christianity, and all the political drama that brings. From temples to basilicas, the city grows alongside you, pushing players to adapt and stay relevant. And if you mess it up, well, there's always the chance the gods might notice, so don't go upsetting them by demolishing their favorite temples just because you want some sort of strip club. I don't know how Rome works. In fact, I've been to Pompeii. There are brothels there. They don't look very comfy. I'm going to be honest. I hope they did have some form of bedding or lining, because doing the stuff in the pictures on just the slabs that are in the rooms, yeah, you're going to need a chiropractor for that. This game is set for release in 2025, and it's going to be this city builder with a twist, combining ancient preservation with forward-thinking urban planning. If you've ever wanted to do that in a game, well, I haven't, but Pompei The Legacy at least brings you some of it. So that's my rundown of some of the most interesting upcoming games set in ancient Rome, and as you might notice, there's a bit of a trend between them. They are all city builders, except from the fake one. What are the chances? Unfortunately, that just seems the way it's going, and well, I think there's a reason behind it. City builders are quite easy to make for solo developers, especially made on Unity, or even, I guess, to a point, Unreal Engine. But I'm going to be honest, I think I've had enough of them. I think there's been so many of them that I've had my fill. Manor Lords is really taking up that scene for me at the moment. We've also still got Age of Empires, which isn't a city builder, but, you know, it has the same elements. We've got games like Thrive, Heavy Lies the Crown, covering some of the medieval aspect. And, of course, Anno, which is kind of the king of well, the only thing Ubisoft has left that's of any worth, I think. But, you know, some indie people coming back on the scene, I think it's a chance to really show off what they've got. And some has had some success within things like Steam Next Fest. So hopefully that they can expand upon that. But for now, well, I'm going to go back to Rise Son of Rome because I need more stuff that's third person. Can somebody be working on that? Not you, Playway Games. Not you.